YH8 Racing is P6. Todd is second. Best lap is a 150.238. YH8 Racing in Snake is P6. Jason Short in Oak Tree is third. Best lap is a 150.373. YH8 Racing in Back Straight is P6 on Supers. Todd in Hawk Pen is P2. Jason Short in Horseshoe is P1. Best lap is a 149.007. Todd is P3. Yamashita 40 in Back Straight is P4. Chris Butt is P2. Todd in Roller Coaster is P3. Jason Short is first. Chris Butt is second. Yamashita 40 is P4. Todd in Oak Tree is third. Chris Butt is P2. Todd in Hogpen is third. Yamashita 40 is P4. Jason Short in Snake is first. Chris Butt in Left Hook is second. Yamashita 40 from New Zealand in Back Straight is fourth. Todd in Back Straight is third on Supers. Best lap is a 150.204. Jason Short is first. Chris Butt from New Zealand in Horseshoe is P2. Jason Short in NASCAR Bend is P1 on Supers. Best lap is a 148.098. MMR 333 from Canada is 7th on Supers. YH8 Racing in NASCAR Bend is 6th. Best lap is a 154.878. MMR 333 is 7th. Chris Butt is second. Jason Short in Hogpen is P1. MMR 333 in Horseshoe is P20. Best lap is a 68.16.942. Greg Hurst in Horseshoe is P5. MMR 333 is P20. Yamashita 40 in Oak Tree is P4. MMR 333 in Roller Coaster is 20th. Yamashita 40 from New Zealand in Hogpen is 4th. Greg Hurst is P5. Yamashita 40 in Left Hook is P4. Greg Hurst in Snake is 5th. Yamashita 40 in Back Straight is 4th. Greg Hurst in Back Straight is P5. Yamashita 40 is P5. Jason Short in Snake is P1. The qualification session is at Virginia International Raceway in Alton, Virginia, USA. The wind speed is 3 km/h from the northeast. Chris Butt from New Zealand is P1 on Supers. Greg Hurst from New Zealand in Horseshoe is P6 on Supers. Yamashita 40 from New Zealand in Snake is P4 on Supers. Chris Butt in Oak Tree is P1. Todd from New Zealand is 6th on Supers. Jason Short from New Zealand is 2nd on Supers. 10 minutes remaining in the session. Chris Butt is P7. Chris Butt is up 13.46 in left hook. Chris Butt is up 13.50 in South Bend. Chris Butt is up 13.18 in roller coaster. MMR 333 from Canada is 3rd on Supers. MMR 333 improved his 2nd with a 150.644. 1.642 off pole. Yamashita 40 is P4. Chris Butt in Snake is P3 up 0.43. Chris Butt is up 0.86 in Oak Tree. Chris Butt is up 1.19 in roller coaster. Chris Butt improved his 3rd with a 151.736. 2.734 off pole. MMR 333 is provisional pole with a 150.300. YH8 Racing is 6th. Todd is P5 up 0.15 on Supers. YH8 Racing is 6th on Supers. Greg Hurst in Oak Tree is 7th up 16.81. Greg Hurst is up 17.40 in roller coaster. Five minutes remaining in the session. Chris Butt is P4 up 0.67. Chris Butt improved his third with a 150.953. 1.951 off pole. MMR 333 is provisional pole with a 149.235. Todd is 5th. Todd improved his P3 with a 150.304. 1.302 off pole. Greg Hurst in Oak Tree is 5th up 0.41. Greg Hurst is up 0.55 in roller coaster. Greg Hurst improved his P3 with a 149.968. 0.966 off pole. Yamashita 40 in Oak Tree is P6 up 0.22. Jason Short is P1 up 0.30. MMR 333 is provisional pole with a 149.128. Jason Short is provisional pole with a 148.427. Yamashita 40 is P6. Yamashita 40 improved his P6 with a 150.973. 2.546 off pole. Greg Hurst in back straight is third up 0.23. Greg Hurst is up 0.18 in hog pen. Greg Hurst improved his P3 with a 149.880. 1.453 off pole. MMR 333 in roller coaster is P2 up 0.16. Best lap is a 149.128. 0.701 off pole. MMR 333 improved is second with a 149.030. 0.603 off pole. Jason Short is first. Jason Short is provisional pole with a 147.650. Todd is P4. Best lap is a 150.304. 2.654 off pole. Todd improved his P4 with a 150.142. 2.492 off pole. YH8 Racing is P7. The qualifying session is now in overtime. Greg Hurst is P3. Greg Hurst is up 0.98 in roller coaster. Greg Hurst improved his P2 with a 148.804. 1.154 off pole. Chris Butt in left hook is 5th. Best lap is a 150.953. 3.303 off pole. Broadcast bot is 20th on softs. The race session is at Virginia International Raceway in Alton, Virginia, USA. The wind speed is 1 km/h from the northeast. Jason Short is first. Greg Hurst from New Zealand is second on supers. MMR 333 from Canada is P3 on supers. Todd from New Zealand is P4 on supers. Chris Butt from New Zealand is P5 on supers. Yamashita 40 from New Zealand is 6th on supers. YH8 Racing is P7 on supers. Jason Short from New Zealand is first on supers. Minutes remaining in the session. Race start. Greg Hurst is P2. Greg Hurst is now P7. Jason Short is second. Chris Budd is third. Jason Short is second. Yamashita 40 is P5. Chris Budd in back straight is P3. Yamashita 40 in roller coaster is P5. YH8 Racing is P4. Jason Short in Horseshoe is P2, 0.9 behind MMR 333. Jason Short passed MMR 333 for P1. Yamashita 40 in NASCAR Bend is P4 on Supers, 0.2 ahead of YH8 Racing. Yamashita 40 lost fifth to Todd. Todd in Snake is P5. Best lap is a 2:02.890. 4.964 off the fastest lap. MMR 333 in South Bend is P2, 0.9 behind Jason Short. Yamashita 40 in Oak Tree is P6, 0.6 behind Todd. MMR 333 in back straight is second, 0.7 behind Jason Short. Yamashita 40 is P6. Best lap is a 2:02.505. 4.579 off the fastest lap. MMR 333 is P2 on Supers, 1.0 behind Jason Short. YH8 Racing is fourth, 0.3 behind Chris Budd. YH8 Racing passed Chris Budd for third. MMR 333 in Snake is second. Best lap is a 1:53.313. 2.823 off the fastest lap. Todd is fifth, 0.2 behind Chris Budd. Chris Budd was 2.0 faster last lap. MMR 333 in Oak Tree is P2. 15 minutes remaining in the session. Todd in back straight is P4. Best lap is a 1:53.838. 3.348 off the fastest lap. MMR 333 on lap 3 is P2, 0.7 behind Jason Short. Chris Buddett in hot pen is P4, 0.2 ahead of Yamashita 40. MMR 333 is second. Best lap is a 1:49.007. YH8 Racing is fourth, 0.3 behind Chris Buddett. Greg Hurst in Snake on lap 4 is 6th, 1.0 behind YH8 Racing. YH8 Racing is P5. Best lap is a 1:53.186. 4.179 off the fastest lap. Greg Hurst from New Zealand is P6, 0.5 behind YH8 Racing. Greg Hurst was 5.0 faster last lap. Greg Hurst passed YH8 Racing for P5. YH8 Racing in back straight is P6, 0.3 behind Greg Hurst. Greg Hurst in hog pen is 5th. Best lap is a 1:50.398. 1.391 off the fastest lap. YH8 Racing is 6th, 0.9 behind Greg Hurst. Chris Buddett is 3rd, 1.9 behind MMR 333. Greg Hurst is P5 on Supers, 1.7 behind Yamashita 40. Chris Buddett in back straight is P3, 1.5 behind MMR 333. Greg Hurst in roller coaster on lap 5 is 5th, 1.7 behind Yamashita 40. Chris Buddett from New Zealand is P3, 2.6 ahead of Greg Hurst. Chris Buddett was 1.4 faster last lap. Greg Hurst is P4, 2.0 behind Chris Buddett. 10 minutes remaining in the session. Yamashita 40 from New Zealand in NASCAR Bend is 6th, 3.0 behind YH8 Racing. Greg Hurst on lap 6 is P4, 1.8 behind Chris Budd. Greg Hurst was 3.2 faster last lap. Yamashita 40 on lap 6 is P6, 0.8 behind YH8 Racing. Greg Hurst in roller coaster is 4th, 1.8 behind Chris Budd. Greg Hurst passed Chris Budd for 3rd. YH8 Racing is P6, 0.3 behind Yamashita 40. YH8 Racing was 6.0 faster last lap. Chris Budd is 4th, 1.7 behind Greg Hurst. Greg Hurst was 3.4 faster last lap. YH8 Racing in NASCAR Bend is P6, 1.2 behind Yamashita 40. Yamashita 40 was 3.3 faster last lap. Chris Budd in South Bend is 4th, 2.4 behind Greg Hurst. YH8 Racing in Oak Tree is P6, 1.6 behind Yamashita 40. YH8 Racing lost P6 to Todd. Chris Budd is 4th, 3.5 behind Greg Hurst. YH8 Racing is 7th, 0.1 behind Todd. Todd was 3.0 faster last lap. Chris Budd in NASCAR Bend is P4, 3.7 behind Greg Hurst. YH8 Racing in NASCAR Bend is P7, 2.1 behind Todd. Chris Budd in Oak Tree is 4th on Supers, 2.8 behind Greg Hurst. YH8 Racing in Oak Tree is 7, 2.5 behind Todd. Five minutes remaining in the session. Todd in roller coaster is 6th, 2.5 ahead of YH8 Racing. YH8 Racing is P7, 3.1 behind Todd. Yamashita 40 in NASCAR Bend is P5. Best lap is a 1:49.642. 1.051 off the fastest lap. YH8 Racing is 7th, 4.4 behind Todd. Yamashita 40 in Oak Tree on lap 9 is P5. YH8 Racing entering the pits is P1. Yamashita 40 is now P6. Chris Butt in Roller Coaster is 5th, 4.7 ahead of Yamashita 40. Yamashita 40 is 6th, 2.0 behind Chris Butt. YH8 Racing exiting pits on Supers. Yamashita 40 is now P5. Todd from New Zealand is 6th. Yamashita 40 is P5 on Supers, 1.0 behind Chris Butt. Greg Hurst from New Zealand in Oak Tree is P3. Yamashita 40 in Oak Tree is 5th, 0.7 behind Chris Butt. Greg Hurst in Hogpen is 3rd on Supers. Yamashita 40 in Hogpen is 5th, 0.4 behind Chris Butt. Greg Hurst in NASCAR Bend is P3. Yamashita 40 from New Zealand in NASCAR Bend is 5th, 0.8 behind Chris Butt. Greg Hurst on lap 11 is 3rd. Yamashita 40 is P5, 0.9 behind Chris Butt. The leader has just finished the race. Jason Short finished P1. MMR 333 is 2nd. MMR 333 finished P2. Greg Hurst finished 3rd. Chris Butt finished 4th. Yamashita 40 finished 5th. Todd finished P6. YH8 Racing finished 7th. Broadcast bot is 8th. The race session is at Virginia International Raceway in Alton, Virginia, USA. The wind speed is 1 km/h from the northeast. YH8 Racing is first. Todd from New Zealand is second on Supers. Yamashita 40 from New Zealand is P3 on Supers. Chris Butt from New Zealand is P4 on Supers. Greg Hurst from New Zealand is 5th on Supers. MMR 333 from Canada is P6 on Supers. Jason Short from New Zealand is P7 on Supers. YH8 Racing is first on Supers. "20 minutes remaining in the session. Race start. Todd is second. Todd lost second to Yamashita 40. Todd lost P4 to Chris Butt. Greg Hurst is P2. Chris Butt is P4. MMR 333 is P3. Greg Hurst is second. MMR 333 in back straight is third. Todd in back straight is fifth. Todd passed Chris Butt for P4. Greg Hurst in hawk pen is second. Greg Hurst is now P1. YH8 Racing is P4, 0.1 behind Todd. Jason Short from New Zealand in Horseshoe is P6, 0.8 behind Yamashita 40. YH8 Racing on lap 2 is 4th, 0.7 behind Todd. Jason Short is 6th. Best lap is a 2:07.597, 8.172 off the fastest lap. MMR 333 in Oak Tree on lap 2 is 2nd, 0.9 behind Greg Hurst. Todd in back straight is 4th on Supers, 0.8 behind YH8 Racing. Jason Short from New Zealand in roller coaster is 6th, 0.6 behind Yamashita 40. Jason Short is now P5. Yamashita 40 is P4, 0.5 ahead of Jason Short. Yamashita 40 lost 4th to Jason Short. Jason Short in Horseshoe on lap 3 is P5, 0.2 behind Yamashita 40. Jason Short is now P4. Yamashita 40 in NASCAR Bend is 6th, 1.0 behind YH8 Racing. Jason Short is 4th, 0.6 behind Todd. Yamashita 40 in South Bend is 6th, 1.0 behind YH8 Racing. Yamashita 40 was 4.7 faster last lap. 15 minutes remaining in the session. Yamashita 40 passed YH8 Racing for 5th. Todd in back straight is 4th. Best lap is a 1:54.266. 3.822 off the fastest lap. Yamashita 40 on lap 3 is P5, 1.5 behind Todd. YH8 Racing is P6, 1.0 behind Yamashita 40. MMR 333 on lap 4 is P2, 2.6 behind Greg Hurst. YH8 Racing is 6th, 0.6 behind Yamashita 40. MMR 333 is P2, 2.8 behind Greg Hurst. Todd in back straight is P4, 4.1 behind Jason Short. MMR 333 is second, 2.6 behind Greg Hurst. Todd is P4, 0.8 behind Jason Short. MMR 333 is second, 2.6 behind Greg Hurst. MMR 333 entering the pits is P1. MMR 333 lost 6th to YH8 Racing. Todd in South Bend is P3, 1.3 behind Jason Short. YH8 Racing is P6, 2.7 behind Chris Butt. Todd from New Zealand is P3, 1.4 behind Jason Short. Todd was 1.6 faster last lap. YH8 Racing in back straight is 6th, 3.0 behind Chris Butt. Todd in NASCAR Bend on lap 6 is P3, 2.2 behind Jason Short. 10 minutes remaining in the session. YH8 Racing in Horseshoe is P6, 3.8 behind Chris Butt. Todd is third, 2.0 behind Jason Short. MMR 333 is 7th on Supers. Todd is P3, 2.8 behind Jason Short. MMR 333 from Canada in back straight is 7th, 3.7 behind YH8 Racing. Todd in Snake is third, 4.0 behind Jason Short. Jason Short was 1.1 faster last lap. MMR 333 in Horseshoe is 7th. Best lap is a 149.171. 0.787 off the fastest lap. Todd in back straight is 3rd on Supers. MMR 333 in South Bend is 7th, 2.2 behind YH8 Racing. Jason Short from New Zealand in Horseshoe is 2nd. MMR 333 is P7. YH8 Racing is P6, 1.1 ahead of MMR 333. Chris Bunnett is 6th, 0.9 behind YH8 Racing. Chris Bunnett lost P6 to MMR 333. MMR 333 in Snake is P6, 1.3 behind YH8 Racing. MMR 333 was 2.1 faster last lap. Chris Bunnett in South Bend is P7 on Supers, 2.2 behind MMR 333. 5 minutes remaining in the session. MMR 333 in back straight is P6, 0.2 behind YH8 Racing. MMR 333 passed YH8 Racing for P5. YH8 Racing in roller coaster is P6, 0.7 behind MMR 333. MMR 333 was 2.1 faster last lap. YH8 Racing lost 6th to Chris Bunnett. Chris Bunnett is 6th on Supers, 3.4 behind MMR 333. Jason Short in Oak Tree is P2, 0.8 behind Greg Hurst. Jason Short passed Greg Hurst for P1. Greg Hurst in back straight is 2nd, 0.8 behind Jason Short. Chris Bunnett from New Zealand is 6th. Greg Hurst is P2. Best lap is a 149.298. 0.914 off the fastest lap. Yamashita 40 in horseshoe is P4. Greg Hurst on lap 10 is second, 0.8 behind Jason Short. Chris Butt from New Zealand in horseshoe is P6. Greg Hurst in back straight is second, 0.9 behind Jason Short. Chris Butt on lap 10 is sixth. Greg Hurst is P2, 1.0 behind Jason Short. Yamashita 40 is fourth, 4.8 behind Todd. Greg Hurst on lap 11 is second, 0.7 behind Jason Short. Yamashita 40 is P4. Greg Hurst in back straight is second on supers, 0.5 behind Jason Short. Yamashita 40 in back straight is fourth. The leader has just finished the race. Jason Short finished P1. Greg Hurst finished P2. Todd finished third. Yamashita 40 finished P4. MMR 333 is P5. MMR 333 finished fifth. YH8 Racing finished 6th. Chris Butt is 7th. Broadcast bot is 8th. The race session is at Virginia International Raceway in Alton, Virginia, USA. The wind speed is 3 km/h from the northeast. YH8 Racing is first. Yamashita 40 from New Zealand is second on Supers. Todd from New Zealand is third on Supers. MMR 333 from Canada is P4 on Supers. Greg Hurst from New Zealand is P5 on Supers. YH8 Racing is P1 on Supers. "20 minutes remaining in the session. Race start. Yamashita 40 is P2. Yamashita 40 lost second to Todd. Greg Hurst in Horseshoe is second. Greg Hurst lost second to Yamashita 40. Yamashita 40 in left hook is P2. Yamashita 40 lost P2 to Greg Hurst. Greg Hurst is P2. Yamashita 40 in South Bend is P3. Yamashita 40 is now second. MMR 333 in back straight is third. MMR 333 lost P3 to Todd. MMR 333 lost P4 to YH8 Racing. Yamashita 40 in roller coaster is P2. MMR 333 is P5. Todd in Horseshoe is P3, 1.0 behind Yamashita 40. Todd passed Yamashita 40 for second. MMR 333 on lap 2 is P5, 0.3 behind YH8 Racing. MMR 333 passed YH8 Racing for P4. YH8 Racing in Snake is P5, 0.4 behind MMR 333. Todd from New Zealand in Oak Tree is second, 1.6 behind Greg Hurst. MMR 333 in back straight on lap 2 is fourth, 2.3 behind Yamashita 40. Todd in Hawk Pen on lap 2 is P2, 2.1 behind Greg Hurst. MMR 333 is fourth, 1.5 behind Yamashita 40. Todd is P2, 2.7 behind Greg Hurst. MMR 333 is fourth. Best lap is a 150.248. Minutes remaining in the session. Todd in back straight is P2, 3.8 ahead of Yamashita 40. MMR 333 in back straight is fourth, 2.9 behind Yamashita 40. Todd is second, 3.5 behind Greg Hurst. Greg Hurst was 1.8 faster last lap. MMR 333 in Horseshoe is fourth, 2.5 behind Yamashita 40. Todd is P2, 4.3 behind Greg Hurst. Greg Hurst was 1.4 faster last lap. MMR 333 on lap 4 is fourth, 2.0 behind Yamashita 40. Todd in back straight is second, 4.9 behind Greg Hurst. MMR 333 is P4, 1.5 behind Yamashita 40. Yamashita 40 was 1.4 faster last lap. Todd from New Zealand in Horseshoe is second, 5.0 behind Greg Hurst. MMR 333 in NASCAR Bend is fourth on Supers, 1.9 behind Yamashita 40. Yamashita 40 is third. Best lap is a 151.290. 2.277 off the fastest lap. MMR 333 from Canada in Oak Tree is fourth, 1.6 behind Yamashita 40. Yamashita 40 from New Zealand in Back Straight is third, 1.3 ahead of MMR 333. MMR 333 is P4, 0.8 behind Yamashita 40. Yamashita 40 from New Zealand in Horseshoe is P3, 0.7 ahead of MMR 333. MMR 333 from Canada in NASCAR Bend is P4, 2.9 behind Yamashita 40. 10 minutes remaining in the session. Yamashita 40 is third, 2.3 ahead of MMR 333. MMR 333 in Oak Tree is fourth on Supers, 1.5 behind Yamashita 40. Yamashita 40 in Roller Coaster is third, 1.2 ahead of MMR 333. MMR 333 is fourth on Supers, 2.2 behind Yamashita 40. Yamashita 40 is P3. Best lap is a 150.612. 2.474 off the fastest lap. MMR 333 in Snake is P4. Best lap is a 149.627. 1.489 off the fastest lap. Yamashita 40 is third, 2.8 ahead of MMR 333. Yamashita 40 was 2.4 faster last lap. MMR 333 in Back Straight is P4, 3.3 behind Yamashita 40. Yamashita 40 on lap 7 is P3, 3.5 ahead of MMR 333. MMR 333 on lap 8 is P4, 2.6 behind Yamashita 40. Yamashita 40 from New Zealand in left hook is P3, 2.9 ahead of MMR 333. MMR 333 was 0.5 faster last lap. MMR 333 is fourth, 2.4 behind Yamashita 40. MMR 333 was 0.5 faster last lap. Yamashita 40 in back straight is P3, 2.2 ahead of MMR 333. MMR 333 in roller coaster is fourth on supers, 2.0 behind Yamashita 40. Todd on lap 9 is P2. 5 minutes remaining in the session. MMR 333 in horseshoe is P4, 0.9 behind Yamashita 40. Yamashita 40 is second, 0.8 ahead of MMR 333. MMR 333 is third, 0.6 behind Yamashita 40. Todd in South Bend is fourth. MMR 333 from Canada in back straight is third, 0.1 behind Yamashita 40. MMR 333 was 1.5 faster last lap. MMR 333 passed Yamashita 40 for second. Todd in roller coaster is P4. MMR 333 is third, 3.8 behind Yamashita 40. Todd is P4, 3.2 behind MMR 333. MMR 333 is P3, 2.8 behind Yamashita 40. Todd in Oak Tree is P4, 3.5 behind MMR 333. MMR 333 is P3, 2.4 behind Yamashita 40. Todd from New Zealand is 4th. MMR 333 in Horseshoe is P3, 4.7 behind Yamashita 40. Yamashita 40 was 1.5 faster last lap. Todd is P4. MMR 333 is 3rd, 3.2 behind Yamashita 40. Greg Hurst exiting pits on Supers. Greg Hurst lost P4 to YH8 Racing. The leader has just finished the race. Yamashita 40 finished first. MMR 333 finished P2. Todd finished P3. YH8 Racing is 4th. YH8 Racing finished 4th. Greg Hurst is 5th. Greg Hurst finished 5th. Broadcast bot is 6th. The race session is at Virginia International Raceway in Alton, Virginia, USA. The wind speed is 1 km/h from the northeast. Todd is P1.